Today we're going to be discussing a pretty alarming and, dare I say, cheesy episode of a children's TV show. This video topic was recommended to me by one of my subscribers, Zach, aka VZach. He commented on one of my videos letting me know that there is a children's puppet show on PBS called Donkey Hodie, and he specifically recommended an episode called Cheesy Con. Now, before I had even watched the episode, I had a feeling that it would be a pretty frustrating watch, but a pretty good video topic, and I have to say I was right about that. I ended up paying $2 to get the episode on the Donkey Hodie YouTube channel. That was the only way that I could find to watch it. I had never heard of Donkey Hodie, which isn't surprising. I don't have any kids in my life, and I'm not really familiar with children's television in general, but it seems like it is a very popular children's show. It's somewhat new. It only came out in 2021, and it is a spin-off of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I don't remember this, but apparently there was a character on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood named Donkey Hodie. The name Donkey Hodie is a play on the novel Don Quixote. This show, Donkey Hodie, is made by Fred Rogers Productions, which I would say is kind of a legacy in children's programming. So I'm a little confused because when I was watching this episode, it says that the Donkey Hodie YouTube channel has 172 million subscribers, which would make it the third most subscribed YouTube channel in the world. But when you search for Donkey Hodie on YouTube, no channels come up. And this channel isn't on any of the lists of most subscribed YouTube channels where it should be based on their subscriber numbers. So I wonder if this is because it's associated with PBS, so it's not really treated as a standard YouTube channel, but more of almost like a TV channel. The point is, this is clearly a very popular children's show. Maybe some of you who have kids or nieces and nephews can speak more to that, but that's the impression I get. Similar to a lot of children's shows, in each half-hour episode, there are two 11-minute mini episodes, and Cheesy Con is the first episode in this duo of episodes, so let's talk about it. It's funny because when Zach recommended this to me, I was like, whoa, I wonder if this is like exposing the dairy industry, like it's all a big cheesy con. But obviously that would be way too good to be true, and not to spoil anything, but it's not about that. I'm gonna talk you through the episode while showing clips. I will be using minimal audio, if any, from the episode because I don't want to get copyrighted. The episode starts with Donkey, the main character, looking for her cheese flag and her cheese hat. Her friend Panda then arrives with his cheese hat and his cheese flag, and they say they're ready for the largest cheese celebration in all of Someplace Else, which is the fictional land that they live in. They talk about what they're most excited for at Cheesy Con. Donkey says she's excited for the Cheesy Singalong. Panda is excited for a show starring the Cheese Town players. Donkey also says she's excited to meet the cheesiest superhero in the world, Captain Cheese. I know this show is for kids, but the writing isn't even the tiniest bit clever. As you can tell so far, the use of the word cheese is gratuitous and over the top, much like, I would argue, the use of cheese in American diets is gratuitous and over the top. But I mean, they're using made-up words like cheeserific. And don't worry, I did have a cheese tally going, and I think it would be a fun game for you guys to try and guess how many times they say the word cheese in this episode, and I will reveal the amount at the end. In her excitement to get out the door, Donkey trips and injures her hoof. The doctor comes over, and it is determined that Donkey has to stay off her hoof. Panda decides to stay with her, and they brainstorm a way to try to get Donkey to Cheesy Con. At this moment, there's a flower delivery from Donkey's friend, Harriet Elizabeth Cow. I found the choice to have flowers sent from the cow character in an episode about cheese kind of interesting. To me, this showcased the disconnect that most people have between cheese and where it comes from. This is a show about animals. It's Donkey and all of her different animal friends. Cheese is very much a human creation. You know, because we're so much smarter and more evolved and bigger brained than other animals, we decide to arbitrarily consume the milk of one specific species. In the human world, as it relates to cheese, cows are only used for human profit, enjoyment and exploitation. But I guess in the made-up land of someplace else, you can actively participate in and celebrate the exploitation of cows while also being friends with one who sends you flowers. In terms of what we're teaching here, and we're going to come back to this question, to me it feels like we're teaching cognitive dissonance. Also, isn't it so funny that people criticize vegans for anthropomorphizing farm animals by assigning human experiences to them, like fear and pain and suffering? But it's totally fine to anthropomorphize animals for the sake of children's educational programming, and make them do completely unrealistic things, including but not limited to eating cheese. The logic is airtight. Panda then gets the idea to have a cheesy Con Singalong for Donkey. I'm not going to be able to play the song because I'm sure that they sell this music and I would definitely get copyrighted if I were to play it, so you will be hearing my own musical interpretation of the cheesy sing-along. There is a video that the Donkey Hodie Facebook page uploaded of the song, so I will link it below so that you can watch it yourselves. But the sing-along starts, and at first it is to the tune of Old MacDonald, and it goes, "There was a panda who had some cheese, and Gouda was his name. O-G-O-U-D-A, G-O-U-D-A, G-O-U-D-A, and Gouda was his name. Oh." Then we transition to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. Donkey had a gorgonzola, gorgonzola, gorgonzola. Donkey had a gorgonzola, and it was really stinky. Then we transition to the tune of On Top of Old Smoky. On top of spaghetti was Parmesan cheese, but I was allergic, so I did sneeze. Achoo! Obviously, I have some thoughts about this. To be completely honest with you guys, I didn't realize that milk allergy and lactose intolerance were two different things. A milk allergy is very serious. It can be life-threatening, can lead to anaphylaxis. It more closely resembles a typical allergic reaction. According to the Mayo Clinic, a milk allergy is one of the most common allergies in children. Apparently, milk is the third most common food after peanuts and tree nuts to cause anaphylaxis. So it's obviously very serious, and I have to wonder, what's the message here? Make light of your milk allergy? Be a loud and proud cheese lover even though you could potentially have a life-threatening reaction to it? Lactose intolerance, on the other hand, is the reduced ability to digest lactase. And this manifests with GI issues. So I feel like this is what I always hear people talking about of like, oh, I'm allergic, but I don't care. I'm just gonna have diarrhea later. Like, oh, I'm gonna have cramps. I'm gonna be bloated. I'm gonna fart. Like people, it's become kind of like almost a trend to joke about your lactose intolerance online and kind of how flippant you are about it, of like, oh, I'll pay for this later, but it'll be worth it. According to the National Institutes of Health, approximately 68% of the human population has a reduced ability to digest lactose after infancy. Ironically, milk allergies tend to decrease after childhood, but lactose intolerance tends to increase after childhood. Maybe we just like shouldn't be consuming dairy? We are back to the tune of Old MacDonald. Old MacDonkey had some cheese, 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 cheese. And on that cheese was some more cheese, 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 cheese. With a cheese, cheese here and a cheese, cheese there. Here a cheese, there a cheese, everywhere a cheese, cheese. Old MacDonkey had some cheese, 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 cheese. Cheese, 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 cheese. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm shedding a tear for how poetic and poignant that song was. Remember that thing I said earlier about guessing how many times they say the word cheese? Okay? Hope you're keeping count. Maybe I'm alone here, but it almost feels like the entire purpose of that song was to familiarize kids with different types of cheese. Teaching them how to spell Gouda, that gorgonzola is stinky, that Parmesan goes on spaghetti. I'm guessing most kids in this age range aren't familiar with these types of cheeses. I don't think many toddlers are eating Gouda and gorgonzola unless they're some fancy-ass kids. Donkey Hodie is aimed at kids ages 3 to 5. At this age range, TV is purely meant for education. And sure, of course, it's also supposed to be fun and entertaining, but mostly educational. And I would think that one of the goals for programming at this age range is to teach them about new words and new concepts. In this case, it seems to have the effect of teaching kids about at least a couple different types of cheeses that they probably weren't familiar with beforehand. The sing-along ends and Panda offers to put on a show from the Cheesy Town Players called The Tale of Cheese That's Gone Bad. He begins to tell a story where once upon a time in the kingdom of Camembert, there were two friends, Ella Mozzarella and Pierre Gruyere. Ella Mozzarella and Pierre Gruyere are best friends until one day a bad guy named Melted Munster comes along and puts a curse on Ella Mozzarella. Pierre Gruyere then wraps her in a magic cheesecloth which turned her back into her fresh, fun self. And they all lived cheesily ever after. Between the sing-along and the play, which took 2.5 minutes of the episode, 7 different types of cheeses were mentioned / introduced. Then Panda pretends to be Captain Cheese so Donkey can meet him after all. Donkey then thanks Panda for all he did to cheer her up. The word cheese is awkwardly inserted into pretty much every line. "You're my best cheesy pal. Thanks, cheesy pal." They then finish the episode with another rendition of the old McDonkey cheese song. Okay, it's now time. I want you guys to guess how many times they said the words cheese, cheesy, or the name of a cheese throughout the episode. And just for fun, pause the video, comment your guess below, and whoever's closest will get spammed with a bunch of cheese emojis. Okay, now for the reveal. They said cheese, cheesy, or the name of a cheese 117 times throughout the 11-minute episode, so almost 11 times per minute. I was kind of curious, what was the purported goal of this episode? And I actually found online PBS's standards for children's content. So this is what they say. All children's content must have explicit age-appropriate educational goals that are clearly incorporated into the storylines and character development. I have to wonder, in this case, what was the educational goal? Other than being a good friend, helping out your friend if they're hurt or sick, and maybe how to spell the word Gouda? Other than that, it feels to me like the content served to educate about and expose children to different types of cheese, and possibly to incept an early cheese obsession into their brains. Ultimately, repetition is a necessary component of any successful advertising campaign. By repeating their message multiple times, advertisers can ensure that their target audience will take notice and remember their product when they are ready to make a purchase. You guys know where I'm going with this. Could there be big dairy involvement here? If you haven't seen other videos where I talk about big dairy, there is a government-run trade association called Dairy Management Inc., or DMI for short. They are colloquially referred to as Big Dairy, and I explain more about them in my Aubrey Plaza Got Milk video. We already know about Big Dairy's role in milk being a requirement in US school lunches. This was part of the National School Lunch Program, which I talked about in the Cheese Caves video. It's difficult, if not impossible, to know what kind of deals go on behind the scenes between Dairy Management Inc. and corporations or big media companies. So I can't say with certainty this episode was incentivized by the dairy industry, but I did decide to go rooting around in DMI's press releases, one of my favorite pastimes. I have to say, they do not post many press releases. It's an average of 1 per month, so they don't give us much. And I would guess that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what they share with us, but I did find a few interesting ones that have been posted in the time since I filmed the Aubrey Plaza Got Milk video. This press release discusses Big Dairy's new approach to, quote, building trust with young Americans through dairy-focused science education. This involves working with scientists and educators to create a STEM-based curriculum that will offer a science-based counterbalance to misunderstanding about how dairy is responsibly produced by farmers and its contributions to health and wellness, with the goal of the curriculum being implemented in several states by early 2024. Wrap it up in whatever fancy educational language you want. This is just another attempt at positively marketing dairy to America's youth. This press release from August discusses how they are moving away from their Fuel Up to Play 60 NFL partnership to a new platform called Fuel Up, with a goal of bringing new and diverse partners together to expand opportunities to increase access to dairy with other nutritious foods and engage youth around healthy eating and food production. Blah, 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 blah. Like, what does this actually mean? This is essentially just a big word salad to say that they're gonna try to get kids to eat more dairy. Fuel Up will work with schools and partners to deliver solutions and resources that increase access to milk and other dairy products, expand meal participation, and find ways to educate students on how nutrition plays an important role in physical wellness and academic achievement. While both of these press releases don't prove anything, they do showcase Big Dairy's desire to and desperation to connect with and build trust with the youth of future generations. A show that kids love and trust would hypothetically be a pretty good platform to do that. In the case of Donkey Hodie, we could play the game show I came up with recently in my girl dinner video. Is it dairy industry propaganda? Or are people just addicted to cheese? This could just be a coincidence. There are many episodes of this show. Most of them have nothing to do with cheese. Maybe the writer is just obsessed with cheese and thought it would be a fun premise for an episode. Even if there's zero involvement from the dairy industry, I still think it's irresponsible to glorify cheese on children's programming. Aside from the self-acknowledged allergy issue, childhood obesity is a huge and growing problem in the US. And it's really scary because it can set kids up for a lifetime of health issues. Obese children are more likely to become obese adults, and a lack of honest nutrition training is really starting them off on the wrong foot. I don't think it's a stretch to say that diet and consumption of high-fat foods, especially cheese, play a sizable role in this epidemic. According to the USDA, daily cheese consumption has more than doubled in the last 40 years, going from 131.4 cup equivalents per person per year in 1981 to 270 cup equivalents per person per year in 2001. They presented the daily consumption, so I did some math to get the yearly consumption. It seems like that number is only going to increase. I talked about these trends more in the Cheese Caves video. According to PCRM, cheese is the #1 source of saturated fat in Americans' diets. But most adults don't make that connection. They shift blame to all sorts of things, from sugar to carbs to pesticides to GMOs. And I'm not saying that some of those things aren't, concerning and something to definitely keep your eye on, but in my opinion, cheese addiction can really be blinding, and it's almost like people just refuse to acknowledge what's literally staring back up at them from their plates. And sadly, we can't begin to educate children on these topics until we have adults that are educated on these topics. And there are a lot of people making a lot of money off of adults continuing to be ignorant of these things. I do wonder, are there any children's shows that educate about nutrition in an honest and responsible way? It would be really cool to see a kids show with subtle vegan messaging, especially since kids naturally gravitate towards this kind of pure, uninfluenced empathy at that age, and a genuine curiosity about where food comes from. So yeah, let me know, are we all just puppets in Donkey Hodie's grand plan, or was this a total coincidence? Let me know your thoughts, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more videos, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, and I will see you again soon. Bye!